Alright guys, Hatch Comic again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day. So for OpTic versus FaZe is the first round match of the World Championship in a couple of weekends time, and it was also a massively important game at CDL Major 4 back at DreamHack Dallas. OpTic went down in that series in a very close fought affair that could have been a very different story had map 1 on the rewind hardpoint gone a different way. That map was defined to some degree by aBeZy twice taking Dashy as a hostage and gaining substantial advantage. Dashy says that whole mechanic is outrageous, gives way too much advantage to the player actually doing the hostage taking. He thinks it should be removed from the CDL rules going into the World Championship. Do you guys agree? Is this simply a reaction from Dashy to what's happened there, or does he have a very fair point indeed? Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Starting here with FaZe themselves, actually, of course, the runner-up at the most recent tournament. These were their overall cards. Now, I will just note here that these cards are worse, for example, than Heretics cards, but they were a better team and they outplayed them at the tournament, of course, and did end up, of course, beating them in the process. Now, the way that these numbers on the cards go, they are skewed by the maps that you decide to play. So, as a team, if you play some of the slower maps, for example, if you don't play that much Vault, then your numbers are going to be lower. For example, Nero, he loves playing Vault, as does the team. Like, his kills per 10, his KD is not going to be so relevant because if you guys are unfamiliar with these cards, the KD numbers are irrelevant to the number in the top left-hand side. The way that it's calculated is by taking these stats in the boxes, ranking the ARs and the SMGs in order of the highest to the lowest, and then taking of the 3 stats in each game mode, taking the best 2, and then collaborating those numbers. So if you're the best in your whole category in a particular thing, you get 99. If you're the worst, you get a 50. That's how it works. Simp, for example, was hill time per 10 at 78.5, the highest objective work in hardpoint for any player in the league in his role. That's a 99, so that gets added up with his 82 kills per 10 there, and then all the 6 numbers then get aggregated. There's a little overall number. That's how Lionman puts them together. So the point is that, yes, Cellium, 1.22, 1.19, 1.20, like insane consistency across all of the 3 modes. You know, his pure impact in terms of damage per 10 minutes, kills per 10 minutes, and these other factors, you know, wasn't quite as strong as some of the other ARs, which is what we tend to see, and therefore his rating overall is slightly lower. So, and also, sometimes this can be skewed by the map sets the teams decide to play. You know, if teams, let's say back in Vanguard, when there was some teams that would play Gavutu control, and some teams that would prefer to play Tuscan control, and if you were the higher seed, you effectively got to choose in the series, certainly at a LAN tournament, you would get some teams play loads of Tuscans, some teams play loads of Gavutus, and even if they were good on Gavutu, their numbers wouldn't look as good because they weren't playing at the same engagement levels per 10 minutes. So that's why these cards, as much as I love them, you've got to always take them with a pinch of salt. But look, the overall numbers imply that aBeZy definitely had a difficult stage, right? Whatever way you look at it, whatever way you cut the cookie, whatever way the cookie crumbles, you know, aBeZy had a difficult stage. Like, his numbers in terms of pure impact and even his KD was not where he would want it to be. His Grand Finals performance wasn't great either. Like, the consistency across the modes, that was definitely there for the FaZe boys. Their search and destroy was very solid, their control was pretty good as well, but in the end, just not quite as good as these guys, the Los Angeles Thieves. They won the tournament. Scrappy, maybe surprisingly, given that he had such a good stage and won the tournament, actually wasn't a 99 overall, so that streak briefly comes to a close. Look, he was a 97 overall, he won the event, he was the MVP. Shock horror, right? But yeah, you guys can see here that his numbers are very, very close to a 99. He gets the small adjustment factor as well for the +3 on the overall record. I mean, you could argue that 8 in 3 could be a +5 on the overall, and therefore he would have been in a 99, but, you know, it is what it is. HyDra and Scrap, though, that's the duo, right? Like, in something at least, HyDra was purple, kills per 10 and control in the SMG category, but interestingly enough, there were more purple numbers for Envoy and Ghosty, and across loads of the important objective numbers, that was true. Envoy, I think, may be this year the most underrated player, certainly I think quite close to it. You know, Envoy has, like, you can argue for all of these guys, but I think that of the whole team, Envoy's maybe not quite got the credit that he's deserved from the community this season. There's certainly other players that fall into that category as well. Underrated players always a difficult one. But I do think that Envoy's just been really valuable for this team this year, and his search and destroy the stage was better than I even thought it was. He was purple in kills and damage per round in search with a 1.33 overall, and Ghosty, he's the hill kitten, right? And maybe you could argue that Ghosty's the more underrated player. I don't know. I think you can look at it a couple of different ways. Not to say that Scrap and HyDra, like, don't deserve the credit that they get, but the point is that Envoy and Ghosty are just the perfect supporting cast for this lineup, and Ghosty having hill time per 10, purple, ticks per round in control, purple. That tells you a lot of what you need to know about why this team is so scary. The search was great, the control as always was excellent. They actually surprisingly lost a couple of controls as everything came to a conclusion. Their hardpoint maybe can get even better. We might talk about that in the coming days as well. I think the most impressive numbers on this list are probably from HyDra, but these are the highest KDs ever for a tournament winner in the CDL. There are some other numbers, Formula 1.44 at Champs 2017, for example. But yes, Cellium has the top 4 numbers on this list. Then Dashy, then Cellium again. Simp is at number 10. But I do think that HyDra's numbers for an SMG are probably the most impressive entries here. Major 3 2025, so the event before this most recent one. Major 4 2024. Major 5 2023. All of those events he's posted, 1.27 or above on an SMG for the entire event and won it. Pretty outrageous stuff. Don't see that every day. But speaking of FaZe, and speaking of OpTic, of course, as I'm sure we will do more in the coming days as always, this was the crucial match they played at the Major back in Dallas that effectively defined the tournament in many respects, because OpTic had won their first round. They then were here against FaZe. They had a great opportunity to beat FaZe in this series. They had good opportunities to beat both FaZe and Thieves as they played them in the end. But this was a big map for OpTic, right? Because they were up about 50-60 points at a time. Then Dashy got taken hostage. Then he got taken hostage again, both times by aBeZy, and during this process it really helped FaZe make a massive comeback, which they eventually did, won the map. They won the game too, lost the control, but at that point it's very difficult for FaZe to, FaZe don't really get reverse swept. Happens very rarely. OpTic have done it before, of course, famously. Certainly Major 1 back in Vanguard was a key talking point, but it's very difficult to do. OpTic go down in 4 in the end, but had they won the game 1, it could have been a very different story, and if not for the hostage taking, maybe things would have been rather different. So this hostage feature, of course, has been in the game now this whole year, and we've seen lots of drama about it. For example, this is Dashy getting taken hostage right at the start of the game by Pred back in October, and obviously it's been happening an awful lot in pro matches as well. And as Dashy explains, one of the reasons why it's advantageous is because, when you take hold of the guy, you get some serious information as well out of it from the minimap and other factors as well. Dashy talks about it being like a couple of cypher ults coming through as in Valorant. So, with all that in mind, taking a hostage is actually not just like, you don't just do it for fun because it's disrespecting the opposition, but actually it could give you a pretty substantial competitive advantage. Now, Dashy, and we've not seen too many players complain about this. It's kind of just like, oh, he got me again type thing. Like, that's a shame. But actually, as far as Dashy's concerned, this was critical for OpTic eventually going on to lose this map and series, because look, if that hadn't have happened, then OpTic likely get enough points to win the game rather than losing 250 to 246. Dashy says that as far as he's concerned, the mechanic is pretty busted and they need to make a change to it.
Then our next match was against FaZe. This was a griller series, but besides the red card, obviously.
We could have won this shit 3, yeah.
This is definitely damn, dude, that rewind, bro. Wow. That was fucking interesting. Every single time Brandon got hostage, I did not know he got I did not know he was hostage, dude. Like, I think I remember him saying, like, I think you were saying
I don't know how to
I was looking at my minimap.
I've never been
I was looking at my minimap so confused what was going on.
I
bro.
swear to God, I've never been taken hostage, so I didn't know what to do. So I was like, so in the moment, I'm like, do I just spam call him what he's just doing?
Called him out.
But it's just call for help. Do I just spam call for help?
Yeah. No, that's what you were doing. You were saying what he was doing, and I was so confused because the P2. I mean, you literally see it. Like, I just died. And I was just like,
I'm like, he's going towards stage.
Yeah, he's going towards stage. I'm like, what? I'm so confused.
Yo.
I was so confused.
But bro, wait,
dude.
back it up. How is he doing this though?
Bro, he's such a freak for that.
Wait,
I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, this shit is. By
the way, like the fact that we're playing with this in the game, when you take somebody hostage and you have 3 cypher ults, basically, you see on the minimap all 3 of the red dots for 10 seconds. You get to basically call out to your whole team where they're at. How the fuck are we still playing with this shit? And let alone, I didn't even get to the part where I'm out of the play now for 15 seconds, and I also didn't get to the point. Like, look, now he has plot armor. Like, or fucking,
look,
he has a meat shield. There's Gears
they're
of
just
War.
getting free time because
Look, he's going towards
fight back.
Bro, I put up thinking I was gonna fucking
Bro.
slam this guy.
Oh my god.
Look, he grabbed you at 31. By the time you spawn in, it's like 18.
I know.
And you gotta really get so fucked.
And I'm like, what the fuck do I do?
Nah, that shit was crazy. And
That
then
shit's that shit's so broken. It's so trolly too, but it's so broken. Like, I can't believe we're playing with this shit. But no, we got to make sure that I don't know. And then I get fucking what is it called? Prom block, star glitch, or prom blocked.
I just can't believe like my angle didn't. My angle couldn't see them go outside the map. Did I see? I can't remember if I saw, because I definitely remember seeing one guy go outside, but I can't remember if it was the second guy or the first guy that did it, because I think one of these guys do it right here in a second. No, I think it was aBeZy. I think the first one was aBeZy. I think. Did I see? Because like, because this is my whoever number 5 is. I can't remember if I saw this guy or it was this one, the second one right here. I think I saw that one.
And then look,
I'm pretty sure I saw aBeZy. Yeah.
look at this. I'm like, oh, free kill.
That's so unfortunate. That is like, what are the odds of that?
And
Actually, low key, that is a free kill. I'm not gonna lie, because like his screen, like it shows like out of
yeah, he
bounds.
doesn't see me. He doesn't see me.
You can't actually see.
I'm on the diner side. I think he could see me, but I think on that side he doesn't see me.
Nah, that game was crazy. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, look at Tyler. He's getting up. I took him hostage twice.
Imagine you did that.
Yeah,
Fucking
fuck
like
you, Tyler.
animation. IRL.
I saw him at that whatever after Sunday night. I saw him. Well, we already talked to him.
So what will or would or should the CDL do about this, if anything? Because, look, if Dashy is of the opinion, which he is for various reasons, that he doesn't think this is a particularly competitive mechanic, it gives too much advantage to the player taking the hostage. Then again, though, it's pretty difficult to take a hostage. One might argue that if you get the opportunity to do so, if the guy lets his back be open like that and they decide to take the risk of actually taking the hostage rather than playing for the kill, then they deserve such an advantage that they accrued in that moment. That's the other argument. And I think one might argue that if this was Dashy doing it to aBeZy, then maybe it would have been the other way around in terms of the discussion, and Dashy would have been rather happy about it if it got him the victory. I don't know, right? Like, again, you've always got to take these comments with a pinch of salt, but I do think that Dashy's perspective is interesting for sure. And as a player, I totally understand. Okay, I'm not a player, but right, from a player's perspective, I totally understand where he's coming from about this seeming kind of uncompetitive. I guess the point is really that changes to this won't be happening unless other players also seriously agree. And, you know, I don't really know how that even works anymore with the gentleman's agreements, whether they are having these discussions any longer, and also for the league to ban it as, you know, to switch it off, I guess, as a setting and say that you're not allowed to do it would be a pretty substantial step as well that I don't really think they're going to take. So, look, Dashy may have a fair point, but I think the point is, you know, basically just get better, right? Because if you want to counter getting taken hostage, you probably just got to take more hostages, right? And that's what, you know, take more meat shields or whatever you want to call them. That's what aBeZy's been doing. Other players have done it as well. And it's just interesting to hear from a player's point of view that it's not just about the disrespect. There's other factors in play as well as to why you might do this in a game. So very much interested in your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. We continue to build our pro COD grid. Yesterday, you guys voted for bad mechanics and great game sense to be accuracy, which is, you know, I feel kind of bad, but it's probably fair, I suppose. Now, this is an interesting one. Great mechanics and average game sense. Lots of people for this are saying Shotzzy, which I think is, you know, probably fair. Although you might argue that in recent years, Shotzzy's game sense has been pretty damn good. I think that it's probably average enough. I think my question is, what are people going to vote for great mechanics, bad game sense? Because I can certainly think of a couple that, you know, might end up going into that category. But I guess, you know, time will tell on that one. So very much interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.